Joining us now, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Glad to be back.
Okay, so a lot to unpack. The shutdown is over since the last time we talked, but now you have 9 appropriations bills that have to get through the House and the Senate to the president's desk by January 31st. On Friday, the Washington Examiner crunched the numbers. They said this: beginning Thursday, there are 57 weekdays until January 31st, but the House is only set to be in session for another 17 days, with the Senate in session for 20 days for the remainder of 2025. So in this environment, how in the world do you get 9 of the more complex bills done with 17 to 20 work days?
Well, the good news is our appropriators in the House and the Senate in bipartisan fashion have been working on appropriations bills, the whole year. So they're virtually done. There's a little disagreement between the Senate and House versions of some of the bills. The top line numbers are a little bit different. We've got to resolve that. But we can certainly get that done in the amount of time that's still on the calendar. Just because we don't have legislative voting days, it doesn't mean Congress isn't working. There's this idea out there that Congress goes on vacation. Shannon, I haven't had a day off in 2 years. I mean, we work around the clock on these things. Our appropriators in particular have been working very hard, and they're ready to go. So I'm very optimistic we can get the rest of the appropriations bills done. And this is the key point. We are returning to regular order, the way this is supposed to work. Congress hasn't done this for many years. And I'm really proud of this achievement. Having gotten 3 bills signed into law on Wednesday night, 3 approach bills is a big achievement. I know that seems like a low bar, but we're getting Congress back to the way it's supposed to work so that we can be better stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
So this idea of you haven't had a day off, but your critics are saying, well, the House hasn't been here. We hear paid vacation for 6, 7, 8 weeks, that members have not been here. And listen, I've heard from Republicans too, some of them frustrated that there wasn't work happening here on issues that could have been handled outside of the shutdown.
There are about 3 of them that were frustrated. 99.9% of House Republicans were united in that, and they will tell you, and they have said publicly and privately, they've had some of their best work of their careers during the shutdown because they were in their districts with their constituents, helping them navigate through the chaos of the shutdown that the Democrats created. Remember, the Democrats in Congress voted 16 times to keep the government closed, to bring on the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and to exact all this pain on the people. And for what? I mean, millions of American families went without food on their tables over this period. You had millions of Americans stuck in airports and stranded because their flights were canceled. You had troops wondering where their next paycheck was going to come from. And it was all for naught. They got nothing out of it. And I think that's why you see the backlash against the Democrat leadership, because we tried to talk them out of that and we couldn't.
Well, speaking of the appropriators, let's talk about one of them, House Democrat Rosa DeLauro. She's the ranking member of House Appropriations. Here's how she describes the situation. She says, President Trump and Russ Vought's illegal stealing of funds from American communities has made it difficult to reach any appropriations agreement. Those challenges are compounded by Senate Republicans' decision to secretly insert language into the legislative branch bill that would aid what she calls January 6th insurrectionists. We'll get to that separately, but it does not sound like she's going to be an easy sell on the remaining 9 bills.
It doesn't sound like she'll be an easy sell, but we're going to have to get together in bipartisan fashion and do it. I understand that Democrats are very upset that the White House and this administration have used their rescission power. That's a power that every president has. It's part of the system. And they have a fiscal responsibility, a stewardship obligation to do that. If you see that funds are being misused or being wasted with fraud, waste, abuse, then the administration is supposed to take action and request of Congress to claw back the funding, because that's not what Congress should ever intend. And that's what we've done here. And Republicans do it better than Democrats, and that's why some of them are upset about it.
Okay, so let's talk about that reference she made to January 6th insurrectionists. It sounds like the reference is to a number of senators. There was this portion tucked into their package that they passed that would allow $500,000 payment if a senator finds that federal law enforcement has gotten their electronic data and didn't notify them. I know you had a conversation with Majority Leader Thune about that. How did that go? And what action is the House taking to potentially override that?
Well, as you know, we were surprised by that provision being dropped into the clean CR at the last moment. I was kind of frustrated by it. I said that publicly. But I have since talked to Leader Thune and the senators who were involved in that, and their motivation was pure. What they were trying to do is put teeth into the provision of law that prevents these abuses, like Jack Smith and these rogue prosecutors who weaponize the DOJ to go after political enemies. That's what they did here. There ought to be a penalty for that so that we can deter further action like that in the future. That's what they were after. But the optics of it weren't great because it looked like retroactivity and they'd be able to pay themselves for something they endured. Many of them had to come out of pocket for attorney's fees and stuff to defend themselves. Look, I think we need to adjust the dates on it so that the optics are better. But I think getting teeth to that provision is an important thing that we all ought to be in favor of.
Is there going to be a House measure that would just change the dates but allow that potential penalty to stand, or get rid of it altogether?
We probably will repeal that provision. That bill's already been filed. I had to commit to my members that we would do that. We were all surprised by it. But I've talked to the senators about something that's more meaningful and reasonable, and I think we can all get together on the same page.
Okay, so the Senate has promised to vote on extending the Obamacare subsidies. That was the main problem with most Democrats and why they didn't want to move forward with reopening the government. GOP Congressman Jeff Van Drew, though, over on the House side, he told NBC News this: not only is it morally bankrupt, it's political suicide for Republicans to let the subsidies expire without an alternative in place. Any scenario in which you put these subsidies, an extension of them, to a vote before they expire on the House side before December 31st?
Well, quickly, I would just say to my good dear friend Jeff Van Drew, the moral bankruptcy was the Democrats who wrecked American health care. Remember, in 2010, they created the Unaffordable Care Act. It did exactly the opposite of what they promised. Premiums have risen dramatically since that time, and they're continuing to go up. Part of the reason for that is that instead of fixing the problem, the Democrats just want to subsidize the broken system. They want to spend taxpayer dollars and dump it onto the broken system. What would be morally correct is for us to fix that. And so Republicans have been working on this, and we have many ideas and proposals that go to the root causes of the dramatic rise in health care.
When will we hear those, though? Do we get those before these new premium increases kick in for Americans across the country?
Yes. Well, many of these you've heard before, and we've done it. Just this year, July 4th, in the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, the president signed into law some real innovations. We saved the American taxpayers $185 billion, according to CBO, by some of the changes there. We brought premiums down. But this is what's interesting. We had another provision in that, in the House version of the Working Families Tax Cut that went to the Senate, that would have brought premiums down on average 12.7% across the country. Senate Democrats fought to take that out of the bill, so it didn't make it to the president's desk. We have more ideas like that. There's a lot of ideas that can bring down the cost of health care, increase quality, increase access to care, and you'll be seeing that rolled out in the next couple of weeks. Remember, we were always planning to do this in October, November, December. Ironically, it's the Democrats who took all that time off the clock by engaging in their shenanigans for political purposes.
All right, so the next couple of weeks, we will watch for that. Now, something that's going to happen this week is this vote on the Epstein files. This is with respect to what the DOJ's got, anything about plea deals, settlements, investigations, those kinds of things. But your counterpart, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, says, despite what you got from the House Oversight Committee this week, you guys are still hiding the ball. Here's what he says.
The American people just deserve the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as it relates to the Epstein files that Donald Trump and his minions made a big deal about for years, but now all of a sudden that they're in office, they're trying to bury this information.
And the president has said unequivocally there's nothing there regarding him, and pointed out that if Democrats had it, they would have released it by now. So why is there any resistance to releasing any of this information? What can you tell us about scheduling the vote this week?
First of all, I have to point out what Hakeem Jeffries just said there is comical. Remember, the Biden DOJ had every one of these files in their possession for 4 years, and neither Hakeem Jeffries or Ro Khanna or Thomas Massie or any of them ever said a word about it. They're doing this to go after President Trump on this theory that he has something to do with it. He does not. The people have already said, Virginia Jeffries, whose name was redacted by the little leaked email that the Democrats put out. They cherry-picked 3 emails out of 20,000 documents to try to imply that the president was guilty, but they took her name out. Why? She's the one who came out and said he had nothing to do with it. President Trump has clean hands. He's not worried about it. I talk to him all the time. He has nothing to do with this. He's frustrated that they're turning it into a political issue, and it's not surprising because the Democrats have nothing else to talk about. What have they accomplished in 10 months? Epstein is their entire game plan. So we're going to take that weapon out of their hand this week. They hit the 218 signature threshold. And you know what I did? I offered it on the floor to pass by unanimous consent, the discharge petition. Guess who objected? The Democrats. If they were really for transparency, if this is really about helping victims and all that, they would not have stopped the passage of the discharge petition. So it'll be on the floor again next week. I suspect there'll be lots of votes that will just get this done and move it on. There's nothing to hide. And the Oversight Committee is releasing far more information than the discharge petition, their little gambit, ever even anticipated. They never even mentioned in the discharge the Epstein estate files, and that is the treasure trove of documents that's given us Epstein's flight logs, his personal records, his financial ledgers, his daily calendar. None of that was anticipated. So the discharge is totally moot It is a political exercise, and we're going to dispense with that this week.
Okay, we'll watch for that vote and as well the votes on the 9 remaining appropriations bills before your birthday, January 30th.
Yes, ironically.
I'm quite sure you don't want another shutdown as a birthday present.
No.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always good to see you. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
in.
Thanks.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.